Hello everyone. Today Panda Tale brings you an ancient romance where the female lead is absolutely legendary. The type who declares, I am a princess, so this is my stage. Synopsis: I am the evil supporting character in a tragic love story. On our wedding night, the male lead forces me, a noble princess, to kneel before the female lead's memorial tablet to perform rites. Only she is the wife I acknowledge. If you don't perform the rites, don't ever hope to get close to me in this lifetime, let alone win my heart. Really? I smile calmly, pour a cup of goldwind, bitter in taste, cold in nature, cleansing the 7 apertures and 9 orifices, then force him to drink it all. Don't worry, this isn't poison. But since you've forced me to kneel, I also want to see how much humiliation you can endure. If I'm destined to be the evil supporting character, then I'll be evil to the very end, until this entire story is turned upside down because of me. Please enjoy the story. When my wedding sedan had just rolled away from the palace gates, suddenly a pregnant woman rushed out to block the road. She wore white clothes, her eyes brimming with tears, her face pale yet still maintaining a delicate beauty like an ink painting about to be erased. She knelt, her body trembling, both hands clutching the wheel tightly, her round belly pressed against the wheel, as if using the lives of both mother and child as a shield. Princess, Your Highness, please spare my life and my unborn child. This baby is innocent. Her urgent voice echoed through the quiet street, sounding like morning prayer bells. I lifted the sedan curtain slightly, my cold gaze sweeping over her. Is this the female lead you mentioned? I asked with a slight smile, my voice tinged with mockery. Yes, that's her. The voice in my head sounded young yet oddly self-satisfied. Now do you believe me? 3 days ago, I discovered this strange thing, a voice calling itself a system, incomplete name being the evil supporting character salvation system. It told me this world is merely a tragic novel where the male lead, after the female lead's death, regrets everything and tries desperately to atone. And I'm the most hated supporting character, the one who must suffer everything to serve as the backdrop for their love story. I frowned, recalling what it told me, from being forced to perform rites before the female lead's memorial tablet on my wedding day, to kneeling for a whole day and night in the freezing winter just for serving tea incorrectly to my mother-in-law. On my wedding night, not only could I not touch my husband, but I would be violated by a beggar from outside the city and forced to bear his child. A story full of humiliation I had never imagined. Wait, I interrupted my thoughts. Haven't I already married Alexander Chen? How could I be violated by a beggar on my wedding night? Unless I'm dreaming? Not a dream. The system's voice rang out calmly as if this were perfectly normal. Because this is a novel for female readers, even though the female lead is dead, the male lead must preserve his purity for her. As for you, the evil supporting character, you must suffer humiliation to satisfy the readers. Satisfy. I laughed coldly. How interesting. Though the ending in the book is already set, you die in childbirth, your body thrown to the wild dogs in the mass grave, while Sophie Zhou's body is buried in the Chen family ancestral tomb, using your funeral rites as a pretext. Living together under one blanket, dying together in one grave with Alexander. But my mission is to help you change your fate. At least you must survive until the end. The clear voice of the system rang in my head, carrying a hint of excitement and self-satisfaction, as if it had just bestowed an undeniable truth. I smiled leisurely, nodding slightly as if agreeing, but mockery flashed in my eyes. I raised my hand, signaling to Lena holding my command token. Summon the state preceptor here immediately. I said, my tone calm but no less authoritative. There's an evil spirit in the palace. What are you doing? The system's voice seemed to want to scream, echoing in my head like a broken bell. I'm telling the truth. Everything is true. This system came to save you. It's a good omen, not an evil spirit. Fabricating nonsense to disturb people's hearts. If that's not an evil spirit, what is? I answered calmly, emphasizing each word as if teaching an inferior being. This dynasty still believes in ghosts and spirits, with no shortage of records about demons and monsters. so I don't mind exchanging a few words with this thing. You already know I'm a princess, so you must understand one thing clearly. I am the sovereign, while the Chen family are merely subjects. Even in a political marriage, there's never any reason for a master to kneel before servants, let alone performing rites as a concubine. Just hearing about it is ridiculous. As for a beggar from outside the city barging into my bridal chamber, that's truly absurd. On the wedding day, security is tight with 500 soldiers from my household stationed everywhere. Not even a fly could get through, let alone a lowly person. I laughed coldly, my gaze sharp as a blade. Most importantly, I am an imperial daughter. Who dares humiliate me? As my words ended, murderous intent rose from within me like fire blazing in the winter night. Each word was spoken like nails being driven into pillars, carrying authority no one dared defy. Who dares humiliate me? I'll exterminate their entire clan. I am the princess of the Yuan Jin dynasty, of royal blood, the most noble lineage. If I suffer humiliation, it means the royal family suffers humiliation, the emperor suffers humiliation. And when the emperor suffers humiliation, blood will flow for thousands of miles, corpses will pile high as mountains. As I finished speaking, murderous aura spread like bone, chilling cold. The system fell silent, shrinking into a small trembling ball. After a long while, it dared to speak in a tiny voice, its tone unwilling to accept defeat. I'm not lying to you. 3 days from now, the female lead will appear pregnant and block your set-in, begging for mercy. If you don't believe me, just wait and see. Its prophecy made me smile faintly. This morning, I didn't leave the palace in simple attire but wore my full princess ceremonial robes. Before the sedan, the imperiode cleared the way, palace maids led the path, with crimson flower guards beside, a total of 800 people protecting strictly. Yet they still couldn't stop a weak pregnant woman like her from calmly rushing out to block my carriage. Heavens above, how exactly did she get here? This is the power of the plot. You cannot resist. No matter how you guard against it, Sophie will break through all barriers and kneel before your carriage. The system hummed softly, its tone as if it had won a great battle. If it had a tail, it would surely be held high to the sky. But it doesn't matter. She has the plot, and you have the system. Outside the carriage, miserable crying rang out continuously. This humble woman is Sophie. Her voice trembled but was clear. Of lowly status, just a servant who sold herself to the household. Fortunately, the young master took pity on me and I carry his flesh and blood. This humble woman has no parents, only this unborn child as my sole family. But the young master has been chosen as the imperial son-in-law, and the old madam forces me to abandon the child. This humble woman knows the princess is noble as a phoenix in the 9th heaven. I dare not hope for more, but the child in my womb is innocent. I beg the princess to be merciful. After giving birth, I'm willing to die, only hoping the princess will adopt the child, raise it to adulthood, considering it additional support for the princess. Please grant this request. Her eyes brimmed with tears, each crystal drop rolling down reflecting the sunlight like fallen jade in mud, beautiful yet painful. Her thin figure bent softly, her appearance touching hearts like white pear blossoms in spring, gentle fragrance yet fragile, blooming awaiting admirers. I laughed softly, my voice like a passing breeze. How interesting. The system didn't hear my whisper clearly, still nagging in my head, urging, listen to me, don't get out of the carriage. Have your maids chase her away, or change routes. Either way, don't get involved with this female lead. Are you listening? What are you doing? Its voice suddenly cracked like a duck being strangled. Because at that moment, I took Lena's hand, pushed open the carriage door and stepped down. My ceremonial dress swept the ground with each step. When I descended, my gaze swept across. Below was a sea of people, kneeling prostrate in black masses like military formation, completely different from her proud kneeling posture earlier. Now Sophie bowed her head low, her face buried in her palms, her whole body trembling continuously. Her fear seemed to overflow into the space, making others take notice. I stepped closer, my hand gently grasping her chin, forcing her to look up. Her disabled hair from crying covered part of her face, a few strands stuck to her snow-white skin. Her tear-filled eyes were pitifully touching, like a small deer cornered, her reddened eyes making her fair skin appear even more translucent and beautiful to the point that my heart suddenly surged with a desire to possess. This is indeed the female lead of this story. I just kept staring at her, my gaze not leaving for even a moment, staring until the system in my head also began trembling. Do you want to bring her into the carriage and keep looking? The system's voice nearly wanted to cry. Too many people watching. Stop looking. Only then did I snap out of the enchantment of Sophie's beauty. I stood up straight. The system sighed in relief, beginning to whisper advice. Right, take her with you. Then I'll think of ways to help you deal with what comes next. But its voice quickly became panicked when I bent down and picked up Sophie. Are you crazy? What are you planning to do? Without answering, I jumped onto a Crimson Flower Guard's horse. Amidst the neighing, I galloped away like an arrow leaving the palace. Behind me, 300 Crimson Flower Guards urgently spurred their horses to follow. Pure blossoms are not at fault. Quickly picked flowers aren't at fault either. So the guilty one can only be the flower picker. I reined in the horse before the Chen household gates. 2 large stone lions stood majestically on either side, symbols of prosperity and power the Chen clan had maintained for 100 years. The large gates painted deep red were tightly closed, as if blocking out the entire outside world. Sophie in my arms began struggling. She whispered explanations that perhaps the household hadn't received news of the princess's arrival yet, asking permission to dismount and notify the gatekeepers. I gently released her. She hugged her belly, staggering forward, looking both weak and hurried. From afar, I saw her talking and gesturing with the gatekeepers, her eyes glistening as if about to cry, but tears hadn't yet fallen. After a while she returned, her body trembling like yellow leaves before the wind. Her lips quivered, both hands constantly shaking, her voice breaking. The matriarch has instructed. The Chen household is a century-old family where only men may enter through the main gate. Princess can only enter through the side door on the right. Madam says she's waiting for the princess in the main hall. After speaking, she knelt down, her whole body curled up, face pale as ash. I laughed coldly, each sound sharp as a blade. Only allowed through the main gate on the wedding day. Begging the princess to enter through the side door. Princess, the side door. This wasn't just a slap to my face. This was tearing off my face, throwing it on the ground and trampling it. I am a princess of the royal family, the most noble imperial daughter of this dynasty. I personally rode to the Chen household. Yet not only do they not open the main gate to receive me, they dare make me go through the side door. The Chen household truly has great audacity. Even if they are a century-old family, so what? The era of aristocratic families sharing the world with the dynasty has long passed. Now only the royal family are the sole masters of this land. Just a watchdog daring to play tricks on their master. Good. I spat out 3 words, each falling into the space cold as bone-piercing ice. My chin lifted slightly, my gaze sweeping over the Crimson Flower Guards. Without needing words, they understood. Several dismounted, rolled up their sleeves, working together to lift the stone lion in front of the Chen household gates. The crowd standing there was horrified, only managing to hear the groaning of stone being moved. Then with a thunderous crash, the stone lion was hurled forcefully at the large red gates. The sturdy gates passed down through generations of the Chen household, once praised as symbols of authority and prosperity, were now shattered to pieces. Wood fragments fell like broken curses, the echo resounding like the collapse of a 100-year heritage. Sophie stood frozen, eyes wide open, unable to hide her terror. The gatekeeper who had been cowering behind the door, trembling and watching, now screamed in panic. The screams threw the entire household into chaos. After just a moment, a group of palace maids and servants swarmed around a middle-aged woman stepping out from the household. She wore magnificent attire, each step radiating nobility and arrogance. This was the Chen household matriarch, Alexander's mother, also the one who in the plot would make me kneel for a whole day and night before the main gate just for a cup of tea. On matriarch Shen's face was a stiff smile, seemingly wanting to explain something but unable to hide her panic and fear. Understandable, as I had just smashed their main gate and still held a whip, my cold gaze ready to strike her face at any moment. However, what caught my attention more was the hidden arrogance in her eyes, as if despite her fear, she maintained an inherent belief that I wouldn't dare go too far, as if she held some weakness of mine. She spoke, her tone both reproachful and haughty. "Princess, why must it come to this? After all, the princess is the Chen family's daughter-in-law, already a woman of the Chen household. Naturally, you must follow Chen household rules. Princess, this is truly disrespectful." Her words were no different from wanting me to discard all the honor and titles I possessed before stepping foot into this family, as if once married into the Chen household, everything belonging to me must give way to their rules. I looked at her, my gaze cold as frost. If I had to serve someone like her to live peacefully in the inner quarters, my fate would be no different from Sophie before me, an absurd prospect to the extreme. I didn't bother wasting words, just used my whip to point straight at Sophie, trembling to one side. "She carries Alexander's child. Tell him to get out here and answer me." Matriarch Chen's expression immediately changed, her voice suddenly becoming sharp, mixed with indignation. "What does this have to do with my son? This is blatant slander. Princess, smashing our gates for a servant girl of unknown origins. This is the most ridiculous thing under heaven. Madame." Sophie softly spoke, her voice full of pleading, but the matriarch didn't even glance at her, just continued directing her gaze at me as if trying to gain the upper hand. "Before selecting the imperial son-in-law, my son was thoroughly examined by the Ministry of Rights. He is pure, never close to women. How could a woman appear claiming to carry his child? If the princess can provide evidence, I'm willing to remove my hairpin and apologize. But if not, the Chen household isn't easily bullied either." I curled my lips slightly, my gaze full of contempt. "As you wish." I didn't bother arguing further, just repeated my words. "Tell Alexander to get out here, or you can drag him out yourselves." My last sentence I turned to speak to the Crimson Flower Guard standing behind me, my voice calm but carrying authority that brooked no disobedience. Madame Chen was so angered by my arrogance she trembled all over, but glancing at the sharp Crimson Flower Guards behind me, then looking at me sitting firmly on horseback with blazing momentum, like a general commanding thousands of troops, she understood that if Alexander didn't appear, I would definitely send people charging straight into the Chen household to drag him out. Helplessly, she could only swallow her humiliation and order people to find Alexander in the study. The system began screaming in my head as if losing its life. "It's over, it's over. Madame Chen will definitely hate you to the bone." "Let her hate," I answered indifferently. "She once wanted me to kneel for a whole day and night. Why should I fear her hatred?" That's true." The system fell awkwardly silent, but after a moment whispered warnings again. "But doing this will ruin your reputation." I laughed softly, not bothering to answer. "Reputation? For the Grand Princess of Jin, as long as I don't rebel, I'm still the best princess." Not long after Alexander appeared, he stepped out, tall and graceful as jade bamboo, his scholarly bearing elegant as orchid and jade tree, truly an appearance that could captivate women's hearts. When he approached, hope flashed in Sophie's eyes, while Alexander's gaze also showed a flicker of emotion. Truly a pair of talented man and beautiful woman, a match made in heaven. The system sighed with emotion. Sophie gently stroked her belly, her eyes full of affection, softly calling, "Young master." That call made Alexander unconsciously quicken his steps toward her. But Madame Chen's sharp voice cut through, carrying heavy severity. "Alexander, Princess Hua Guang says you and this girl have an affair, and she carries your flesh and blood. Is this true or false?" She emphasized each word, her eyes flashing with warning. "The Chen family is a century-old clan about to marry a princess. Think carefully before answering." I clearly saw the conflict across Alexander's face, along with a hint of pain that was hard to detect. But before long, his gaze turned cold as if he had made a decision. Mother, you jest. Sophie is merely a lowly servant, a base woman. How could someone like her be worthy of carrying Chen family blood? He didn't directly answer whether they had an affair or not, nor did he confirm if the child in Sophie's belly was his. He only said she wasn't worthy. Sophie's eyes immediately dimmed like pure blossoms crushed by wind and rain, losing all vitality. From the strong figure blocking my carriage, she now only had despair left. Truly a pair of talented man and beautiful woman, a match made in heaven. I mocked the system's words, my tone full of sarcasm. The system blushed furiously, arguing back. These aren't the male lead's true feelings. Don't you see the emotions hidden beneath his cold exterior? When he accidentally kills the female lead and sees the jade pendant fall from her body, he'll understand everything. His feelings then will explode like a volcano. None of us can escape. I understand. I nodded, a flash of interest lighting my eyes quick as lightning. I reached out and took the jade pendant from Sophie's body. Princess, what are you? Madame Chen's words hadn't finished when I had already spun the jade pendant in my hand once, then without hesitation threw it on the ground as if tossing it to a dog. Under Madame Chen's glare as if she wanted to eat me alive, I spoke leisurely. Alexander, lick it, lick it. Princess Huaguang, you've gone too far. His actions today. I will enter the palace to see the Empress Dowager and report everything fully. Madame Chen shook with anger, her voice rumbling like thunder, but I didn't care because Alexander's gaze was already fixed on the jade pendant on the ground. The changes in his expression were too clear, making me feel quite entertained. From surprise, confusion, realization to pain and love, all these complex emotions competed to appear, making me secretly admire how rarely one sees a face that can express so many emotions. He stepped forward, 3 steps merged into 2, hastily picking up the jade pendant. His hands trembled, his gaze pained as he looked at me, urgently asking, "This jade pendant, where did you get this jade pendant?" I slightly lifted my chin, gesturing towards Sophie kneeling at my feet. Immediately, Alexander's eyes reddened. Without hesitation, he knelt before Madame Chen. "Mother, Sophie is the one your son loves deeply. She carries my flesh and blood. I'm willing to give up my position, break the engagement with the princess. Please grant us your blessing." Oh! I couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. This plot development truly exceeded expectations. The system weakly spoke, full of confusion. How did it turn out like this? I don't know either. I answered sincerely, equally surprised. Perhaps this is the irresistible power of the plot. But that no longer mattered. What mattered was Madame Chen, who had just been brutally betrayed by her own son, now clutching her chest, face pale as if about to faint on the spot. I pretended to bend down, my voice full of concern. "Madam, are you all right?" But seeing she still stood firm, I immediately turned to Sophie still kneeling at my feet like a wooden statue. "What are you standing there for? Quickly go support your mother-in-law," the system weakly reminded in my head. "If you don't seize this opportunity, while she's still dazed to settle your status, once she recovers, you'll never enter the Chen family doors." Unfortunately, Madame Chen truly lived up to being the matriarch of an established family. Initially she wanted to faint to temporarily avoid everything, but after hearing my words, she pinched herself hard to stay conscious. Zura, the first thing she did after recovering was raise the cane in her hand and strike straight down on Alexander's back. A clear thwack rang out. He immediately cried out in pain and collapsed to the ground. But Madame Chen's anger hadn't subsided. The cane in her hand continued raining down violent blows until Alexander rolled his eyes back and fainted on the spot. Only then did she stop. Sophie knelt crying desperately, trying to rush forward to stop her, but was struck several times by the cane, leaving her whole body trembling without strength left. Madame Chen didn't spare her a glance, just panting heavily, her sharp gaze directed at me. "My son has made a mistake and deserves punishment. But young men easily falling into emotions is common. I promise the princess that before you enter our doors, I will personally clean up his inner quarters. Please be magnanimous and forgive Alexander this once." With that, she decisively removed her hairpin and knelt to perform a grand ceremony before me. I couldn't help but laugh and admire, truly worthy of being the matriarch of a great family, with such firm methods yet soft attitude. Truly respectable. Being able to beat the male lead unconscious, that's really firm methods. The system in my head expressed admiration. I just smiled slightly without responding. Her firm methods weren't just about beating people. I felt tired after a day of excessive activity, my mind only thinking of the soft bed in the princess's mansion where I could lie down and sleep soundly. Before leaving, I still didn't forget to show humanitarian spirit by arranging for Sophie to stay at an inn near the Chen household. She cried and begged to stay and care for Alexander, but unfortunately Madame Chen wouldn't even glance at her, even throwing out her contract of servitude. The system began worrying and complaining continuously. Tragic stories must end with the female lead's death, but now that Sophie and Alexander understand each other's hearts, how can Sophie die? Don't tell me you have to kill her. But then won't all the hatred fall on your head? Each time it worried, it talked too much. Each time it talked too much, it came to bother me. I rubbed my temples. Relax and wait. Not long after news arrived, Sophie was dead. Unlike the system's shock, I only smiled, my hand gently stroking the pure blossom branch in the vase beside the table. I told you, Madame Chen is a woman with very firm methods. I gazed at the withered pure blossom, then calmly ordered, "This pure blossom branch has wilted. Change it for another." 3 months later was my wedding day with Alexander. That's right. Even though I had smashed the Chen family gates and made Madame Chen kneel in the middle of the road before me, according to the plot arrangement, the Chen family still obediently welcomed me to become the legitimate wife of their eldest son Alexander. Madame Chen certainly didn't like me as a daughter-in-law, I said indifferently to the system, my tone tinged with gloom. But before the system could think of words of comfort, I changed my tone, face bright as spring flowers. "No matter, I don't like her as a mother-in-law either, haha. We truly are a heaven-made mother-in-law and daughter-in pair." I laughed loudly, the laughter echoing and making the system dizzy. After a long while, it difficultly spoke up. "Maybe you don't need to be the Chen family's daughter-in-law. I am the most beloved princess of Great Jin." His Majesty smashed the Chen household. The censorate submitted accusations, but Father Emperor just laughed and waved his hand, saying Hua Guang's temperament is truly strong. Then let everything go. The system thought that if I didn't want to marry, no one could force me. But why wouldn't I marry? Sitting before the bronze mirror, gazing at my reflection in the bright red phoenix robes, I curled my lips slightly, my gaze cold as ice. Besides the royal family, the Chen family is the wealthiest among prestigious families. Among wealthy families, the Chen family has the highest status. If I don't marry Alexander, should I go find a merchant's son? I cannot bear such loss of face. At least Alexander has a handsome appearance. But you could find someone who loves you and treats you well. The system weakly protested, trying to persuade. Treating well can be faked, but beauty cannot be faked. I immediately rebutted, not giving it a chance to say more. With that, I stood up leisurely, taking Lena's hand, proudly stepping out of the palace. Today is my grand wedding day. The entire capital overflows with joyful atmosphere. Behind the Phoenix carriage are 120 dowry carriages in a long line, followed by 500 strapping soldiers. Everything like a clear declaration in 4 words: I am not to be trifled with. You don't look like you're going to a wedding ceremony. The system coldly observed. You look more like you're going to destroy the Chen family. I sat still in the bridal chamber, smiling without answering. If the Chen family knows their place, I'll be a gentle bride. If not, I don't mind teaching them how to live. After all, I know some martial arts. Night fell. Alexander lifted my veil. He wore deep red wedding robes, his appearance radiant as the midday sun, skin smooth as jade. his whole being radiating beauty that made it hard for onlookers to look away. I couldn't help but smile slightly. "Husband, it's time to sleep." Unexpectedly, his expression immediately changed. He hugged his clothes and retreated a step, his gaze wary as if facing an enemy, his voice urgent. "Don't come near me." My expression darkened, my voice cold as ice. "Imperial son-in-law." These words weren't just a call but also a warning, reminding him to clearly understand his current status. But Alexander paid no attention. He quickly pulled out an object from somewhere, a wooden memorial tablet clearly carved with Alexander's wife Sophie. He took it out. The system screamed in horror in my head. Alexander seemed to breathe a sigh of relief holding the tablet. His fingers caressed each line on the wood surface, his gaze full of emotion and longing. "Princess Huaguang," he spoke, his expression haughty. "I know with your noble status and prominent family background, you forced me to marry you. But so what? Sophie is the one I love, the wife I acknowledge for this lifetime. Even though she has passed, as for you, even if you marry me and obtain my body, don't dream of getting my heart." I didn't answer, my gaze growing colder and colder. He continued, his tone as if bestowing grace. "But I'm not heartless. Since I've married you, I have responsibilities. If you're willing to perform concubine rites before Sophie's tablet and promise never to touch her position as legitimate wife, I can accept living with you. What do you think?" He crossed his arms looking at me as if I should kneel down in gratitude for his kindness. He added more, his tone arrogant as if reading an imperial edict. "No need to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Sophie. It's her kindness that made me give you this chance." I curled my lips slightly, mockery flashing in my eyes. "He's dead for sure." Looking at my expression changing from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo to purple, the system panicked and immediately set up an illusory wooden coffin, seriously preparing to pray for Alexander's soul. In my heart at this moment, two intense emotions surged. One was regret, knowing clearly what this Alexander would do. Why didn't I listen to the system and resolutely break the engagement from the start? Why bring humiliation upon myself to be insulted by him? Have I lived too comfortably that I developed a habit of self-torture? Two was rage. I silently cursed furiously in my heart, vulgar words pouring out. This despicable little man. Being beaten by Madame Chen the other day was clearly still too light. Why didn't she beat him death? What are you? Based on what do you dare make me, a princess of Great Jin, perform concubine rites before a tablet? And on our wedding day at that. The Chen family, are you all finished living and planning to die together? My chest burned with fire, causing me to suddenly laugh. "Someone." I called lightly, my laughter soft but cold. "Imperial son-in-law, come hang him up to sober him a bit." What happened in the bridal chamber couldn't be hidden long. Not long after, Master Chen and Madame Chen rushed over. Before their eyes appeared a horrifying scene. Alexander with a bruised and swollen face, dirty cloth stuffed in his mouth, hanging from the tallest tree in the courtyard. Each time the wind blew, his whole body swayed like a hanging ghost in the night sky. As for me, I stood leisurely to one side, calmly directing the palace nannies and Chen family servants to collect all the chamber pots in the household. What is going on?" Madame Chen screamed, face deathly pale, whole body trembling, but paying no further attention to her, she rushed to take Alexander down, tears flowing. My son! My son!" Her crying echoed through the courtyard. Meanwhile, Master Chen with a face cold as ice stepped straight toward me, eyes full of rage. "Princess Huaguang." He gritted out each word sharp as a knife. "Though our Chen family cannot compare to the royal family's nobility, we are not a place for you to casually bully. If the princess doesn't give this old man an explanation for this matter, even if I must bring it before His Majesty, I will definitely demand justice." He spoke with great spirit, bearing truly worthy of the reputation of an established family. Unfortunately, these outwardly bright and authoritative families were no different from snake and rat nests inside, filthy beyond imagination. I didn't want to waste words dirtying my mouth, just slightly signaled with my eyes. Lena immediately stepped forward, expression cold. Master Chen, your words are truly mistaken. Lena had long been boiling with anger upon seeing the tablet. Now given the chance to speak, each sentence was sharp as a knife aimed straight at the listeners' hearts. Our princess married into the Chen family with full sincerity. Every detail of the wedding ceremony gave you sufficient face, without the slightest negligence. But what about your Chen family? Not to mention the harassment before the princess entered the household. Today, on the wedding night, you actually dared bring a tablet into the bridal chamber. She pointed straight, her gaze like a sharp sword stabbing at each person. The imperial son-in-law taught by the Chen family actually dared make the princess perform concubine rites before a servant girl's tablet. Chen family, you're truly audacious, truly shameless. Master Chen's expression immediately changed. Faced with this serious situation, he didn't hesitate to deny it immediately. This is impossible. I smiled leisurely, my voice gentle but each word like nails being driven. Possible or not, Master Chen can go check for yourself. The tablet is still in the bridal chamber. Don't tell me I placed it there myself. I made an inviting gesture, the smile on my lips cold as ice. Master Chen immediately froze in place, his face paler than a 3-day-old corpse. Even Madame Chen, who had been crying and wailing, was now dead silent. The entire courtyard sank into a terrifying silence. Only the wind whistling through the gates made creaking sounds that sent chills down spines. This matter was truly too absurd, absurd to the point that people couldn't help but believe it was true. Master Chen looked at the wide, open chamber door, his feet as if nailed in place. A violent unease rose in his heart, as if behind that door wasn't a carefully arranged bridal chamber, but a dragon's pool and tiger's den, or rather a guillotine waiting to decide the fate of the entire Chen clan's 180 people. But finally he still entered. His gaze held a thread of faint hope. Perhaps the princess was just fabricating. But that hope had just kindled when it was immediately extinguished, the moment his gaze fell on the tablet placed properly in the center of the bridal chamber. Boom! Heaven and earth seemed to collapse. Master Chen's mind went completely blank. When consciousness returned, he had already rushed in to beat Alexander until he lay flat on the ground like a dead dog. Husband! Husband! Madame Chen cried while rushing to shield Alexander, hands trembling as she held her son. Stop hitting. You'll beat him to death. But Master Chen's eyes were now blood red, his whole body shaking with rage. Alexander, his eldest son, intelligent and handsome. The greatest pride and hope of the Chen family. He was the unicorn son that he had painstakingly taught. The one for whom he had sought the princess's hand in marriage and invited famous teachers to educate. He was the future of the Chen family. But now, he was the one dragging the entire clan into the abyss. Master Chen didn't want him to die, but if he didn't die, the entire Chen family would have to die. The chaotic scene before me left the system completely speechless. It frantically knocked on illusory heart pills while tremblingly asking me, You really plan to kill Alexander? If you kill him, my mission is considered complete. Then what about me? I asked back indifferently, voice light as a passing breeze. Do I still have to die in childbirth? Of course. That's your destiny. If you don't want to die, at least wait until the middle or end of the plot before I can intervene. Fine then. I sighed softly, a flash of regret in my eyes. Then, as if thinking of something, I called out, In-law, just one gentle call, but enough to make Master Chen stop his hand. Stop hitting. Husband didn't mean it. Perhaps he was possessed by something and went mad. As my words fell, Madame Chen's eyes suddenly lit up as if she had just grabbed a life preserver in the vast ocean. She hurriedly continued, Right, the princess is right. Alexander must be possessed by demons to act this way. Master Chen took a deep breath, then bowed ceremoniously before me. Princess, you are truly righteous. I nodded slightly to accept the courtesy, then leisurely pointed them toward survival. I've read in medical texts that golden liquid can cure madness. Golden liquid is exactly excrement. At this time, the chamber pots from the Chen household had been collected by the nannies and arranged neatly in a corner of the courtyard. Madame Chen, paying no mind to the rising stench, rushed over with a ladle. Without hesitation, she opened Alexander's mouth. Alexander groaned, trying to struggle, but his limbs were held tight by Master Chen. He could only stare wide-eyed, watching the excrement being poured down his throat. Forced to swallow, he swallowed each gulp reluctantly. More than half a ladle of excrement spilled out, soaking his clothes. The yellowish liquid gave off a thick stench that quickly spread throughout the courtyard, making everyone nauseous. I felt satisfied in my heart but still couldn't help covering my nose and mouth, dry heaving continuously. The stench was truly too horrifying. I had to move through 3 courtyards before feeling slightly better. As for Alexander, I heard that Madame Chen forced him to drink nearly half a bucket of golden liquid until he fainted before stopping. Master Chen and Madame Chen seemed determined to teach Alexander a lifelong lesson. Over the past few days, rumors in the household spread continuously. From Taoist priests to shamans to mediums, all were invited. Black dog blood, chicken blood, duck blood, any type of blood rumored to ward off evil was poured on Alexander without mercy. Currently, he drinks talisman water instead of tea, sleeps in the pig pen, and must bathe in chicken blood daily. The other day a servant peeked through, Lena said while lowering her voice, face full of interest. "Oo could recognize that as the Chen family's unicorn son. He looks no different from a beggar." I laughed softly, reaching out to gently tap her nose, half praising, half scolding. "How pitiful," I said, tone half serious, half teasing. Then I turned to ask the system, "When will we reach the middle of the plot? When will he recover from madness?" The system answered immediately, "After that, I'll go find the beggar for you." I breathed out slowly, pinching my nose without showing any dissatisfaction. 2 months later, Alexander was finally brought back. They said he had completely recovered. That day I had just finished bathing, my long soft hair like a waterfall spread out to dry under the moonlight. Suddenly Alexander quietly entered. He took a soft towel placed beside me, gently drying my hair. The movements were so gentle it made others hard-pressed to doubt. I didn't feel anything unusual until the system suddenly rang out in my head with a warning. "Be careful. Something's not right, husband." I raised an eyebrow, slowly asking, "What are you doing here? Don't tell me you want to make me perform concubine rites before a tablet again." Alexander's expression briefly stiffened, but immediately he showed a gentle smile, his voice full of warmth. "Princess jests. At that time I was possessed by demons and was disrespectful to the princess. If not for the princess's keen insight, I fear I would have caused great disaster." With that, he suddenly bowed respectfully, his voice low and full of gratitude. "This humble one thanks the princess for your great kindness." His movements were fluid, his gaze carrying scholarly elegance mixed with a hint of romantic charm, making others surprised. "Oh, has he changed his nature?" I tilted my head slightly to ask the system, not hiding my surprise. "Impossible." The system immediately comforted. "The male lead is loyal and devoted to the female lead. Even if you killed his entire clan before his eyes. Just relaxed." I pursed my lips, a flash of regret in my eyes. What a pity, I sighed softly to myself. Otherwise, with Alexander's appearance, making him a male consort wouldn't be bad. Such a waste. Alexander seemed not to notice my thoughts. He slowly braced his hands on either side of me, his peach blossom eyes sparkling as if containing moonlight, looking at me with a gaze full of deep emotion, deep enough even a dog would be moved. When my face slightly flushed, he smiled softly, his voice warm and gentle, full of meaning. "Shall I blow out the candles?" The door made a slight creaking sound, signaling someone had just left and someone had just snuck in. Alexander stepped out of the bridal chamber, a satisfied smile clearly on his face. The feeling was as if he had just taken revenge for a great grudge, making him look up at the sky and laugh heartily. His laughter echoed in the quiet night. The one who had just entered was exactly the beggar he had painstakingly found from outside the city. Royal princess, born with gold and jade in her mouth. So what? She dared humiliate his Sophie, so he would use the one she despised most to humiliate her. Thinking of the torture he endured these days, he laughed even louder, as if wanting to declare his victory. But unfortunately, his laughter hadn't ended when a powerful force pressed him to his knees. He struggled violently, limbs flailing wildly, but it was all useless. Those holding him down were all top experts, their builds powerful, each movement precise, as if one slip and his life would be hard to keep. In just a few minutes, he was completely exhausted, his body limp as a puppet with cut strings. Seeing he no longer had the ability to resist, they stuffed a strange pill in his mouth, then threw him into a dark firewood storage room. Inside the room, a thick stench hit the nose directly. Under the dim moonlight, a man with a ragged, filthy appearance lay sideways, his whole body giving off a smell that made people want to vomit. When the weak light shone on the man's face, Alexander froze. That face was too familiar, familiar enough to make his blood seem to freeze inch by inch. The beggar he had worked hard to find was now lying in this firewood room. If he was here, then who had just entered the princess's room? But he had no time to think further. The pill he had just been forced to swallow was like a fire burning from his stomach, spreading throughout his body. His face flushed red as blood, his whole body trembling in waves. Meanwhile, the beggar opposite, his eyes blood red, stared fixedly at him. Not long after, from the firewood room, sounds that were hard to accept began ringing out in the night, truly a scene filthy to the extreme. Early the next morning, Lena recounted the story with great vividness. Servant girl, I heard this morning when the cook went to the courtyard to get firewood. As soon as she opened the firewood room door, she screamed in horror. She saw the imperial son-in-law naked embracing a beggar equally naked. She continuously embellished the story, her face full of interest. Meanwhile, the system in my head occasionally commented, its laughter as if about to faint from joy. That beggar's hook was still stuck in the imperial son-in-law's rear. I remained silent, waiting for these two chatterboxes to finish laughing before speaking indifferently. Now then. I raised an eyebrow, tone leisurely as if nothing major had happened. Can you tell me how to change fate? Of course. The system answered, its voice still trembling slightly from laughing too hard. The system cheerfully said that if I wanted to survive, I just needed to receive sincere blessings from the female lead Sophie. Sincere blessings. The corner of my mouth twitched, eyes full of doubt. The system looked at me, tone innocent but certain. That's right, as long as Sophie sincerely wishes you to live to 100, you'll survive. According to my plan, if you and Sophie become good sisters, she'll definitely bless you. But Sophie is already dead. I couldn't control myself and screamed loudly. Such important information, why didn't you say it earlier? The system also strongly retorted. This is the main system's regulation, not allowing me to reveal it. I told you to listen to me, but you stubbornly refused. I desperately grabbed my head and pulled my hair. Then what do we do now? The system took a long breath, then slowly said, I can help you summon Sophie's soul. But with what you've done to Alexander, Sophie definitely hates you to the bone. Not hating you to death would be fortunate. How could she bless you to live to 100? Hearing this, I was angry enough to get a headache, but had no other choice. Summon her immediately. I'm a princess. As long as she doesn't request placing a tablet in the ancestral temple, I can think of ways to satisfy everything. Even if she requests that Alexander and I reconcile and become a loving couple, I'll agree. As long as there's life, there's hope. No matter what, I must get Sophie's blessing. The system acted very quickly. In no time, a dim, hazy soul of Sophie appeared before me. Complex emotions rose in my heart, but on the surface I maintained a gentle smile. I gently began, Miss Joe. But before I could finish the sentence, Sophie screamed shrilly and disappeared. The system was truly strange. The system muttered, You've received blessings from Sophie. Looking at my bewildered expression, the system was also confused. Sophie was so frightened by you that she sincerely wishes you to live to 100, at least until she reincarnates. Don't die before her. The system shrugged and shook its head, tone full of philosophy. Indeed, evil fears evil. When snake meets stick it runs. Only the wicked can live long. I gritted my teeth in protest. What nonsense are you spouting? Clearly good people live long. Nevertheless, now I had received the 100-year blessing, my fate of tragic death had also changed. An evil smile appeared on my face. Someone, I angrily commanded, voice full of authority. Arrest that adulterous couple with no sense of shame. The system heard and immediately froze. What are you planning? Haven't you already punished Alexander? Punish? That was just proportionate retaliation. I laughed coldly, gaze sharp as a knife. My prince
Echo back throughout the courtyard. No. You can't do this to me. I'm the Chen family's eldest son. I'm your husband. You're my wife. No matter how I treat you, you have no right to beat me. This is overturning heaven and earth. He cried and screamed, his words full of arrogance and unreasonableness. Immediately after, a dirty rag was stuffed hard into his mouth. The arrogant cries ceased, leaving only the cold sound of wooden sticks striking flesh. In the terrifyingly silent space, the thwack-thwack sounds were like hammers pounding at the Chen family's remaining pride. When the Chen clan members were marched in, they could only witness the horrifying scene before them. Alexander lay sprawled on the execution bench. His body was now just a pile of bloody mud. Blood from his buttocks soaked the small bench, dripping to the ground in bright red streams pooling like a winding river, dyeing red Madame Chen's exquisite embroidered shoes. Alexander, my son, Madame Chen screamed piercingly, her voice echoing throughout the courtyard, filled with extreme pain. She tried to rush forward but two soldiers on either side held her shoulders tightly. She couldn't move, could only scream calling her son's name. Her cries were like a cuckoo crying blood, so mournful that even listeners were moved. But then those cries also quickly fell silent. Alexander brought a beggar into the household intending to humiliate the princess. Did you all know about this? Lena's sharp voice rang out, cutting through the heart-wrenching cries. What? Master Chen, who had been furious at the tragic sight of his son, now turned deathly pale, legs trembling as if unable to stand steady. He staggered a step, turning to look at Lena, voice cracking with panic. Is this true? A soldier stepped forward, both hands respectfully presenting Alexander's confession letter, then sternly toward the beggar, trembling continuously. Witness and evidence are all complete. Master Chen, do you have any words to say? I looked at the man standing before me, shoulders heavy and drooping, eyes full of despair. In that instant, he seemed to age 10 years. Master Chen lowered his head, trembling hands removing his official hat, then slowly knelt on cold ground. This is heaven's will. Heaven wants to destroy the Chen family. His voice was low and trembling, each word like a knife cutting into his own heart. This guilty subject has nothing more to defend. But there are still innocent young children in the household. I beg the princess to have mercy. Bitter tears rolled down his face, falling to the ground and disappearing. Beside him, Madame Chen collapsed, hands clutching tightly at her skirt hem, eyes vacant. Suddenly she burst out laughing, the laughter hoarse and piercing echoing in the courtyard. No. This can't be real. This is just a dream, right? Just a dream. She looked up, eyes blood red as if losing all sanity. I am the Chen family's madam. The Chen family is a century-old noble clan. My son is the family's unicorn son. My daughter-in-law is the royal family's noble princess. Ha! How could the Chen family collapse? This isn't real. She laughed then screamed again, voice as if tearing the sky apart. Madame Chen had gone mad. The cruel death of her son and news of potential clan extermination had stolen all her rationality. Returning to the palace, sitting in the golden sedan chair, Alexander was my imperial son-in-law. He was disrespectful, deserving death. Beat to death then beat to death. But the Chen family was a century-old noble clan. I couldn't overstep Father Emperor and decide everything myself. Indeed, when hearing what happened at the Chen household, Father Emperor flew into a thunderous rage. Exterminate the Chen family. How many heads do they have to dare bully my daughter? He paced back and forth in the palace, fists clenched until his knuckles turned white, voice full of rage. Alexander deserves death. I'll exterminate his entire clan. Grind his bones to powder to feed dogs wouldn't be enough to wash away this hatred. I stood still, eyes looking into the distance. Alexander has already been beaten to death by your daughter. Madame Chen has also gone mad, I honestly reported. Father Emperor, actually the anger in my heart has already subsided somewhat. If Father Emperor could spare them a path to survival for my sake, I would be extremely grateful. Father Emperor raised an eyebrow, his sharp gaze sweeping over me as if examining. You're truly too soft-hearted. He glared at me, tone reproachful, but then still waved his sleeve coldly commanding. Transmit my edict. Imperial son-in-law Alexander, his father Chen Xuan, and his mother Madame Chen, for the crime of great disrespect to the royal family, all are sentenced to death. The main family's assets are confiscated. Chen family descendants are stripped of positions and must immediately leave the capital. For 3 generations they cannot serve as officials. Hearing this, the system breathed a sigh of relief. It smacked its lips, expression somewhat mocking. This edict sounds severe, but it's actually quite lenient. I glanced at it, not bothering to argue. Though the Chen family lost 3 people and had assets confiscated, their century-old foundation remained intact. With existing roots and influence, if they knew how to cultivate future generations, 3 generations was actually just a matter of decades. Father Emperor turned to me, his gaze still showing slight dissatisfaction. Stop. Looking at you gives me a headache. Go outside. Kong, he just brought a group of handsome men. Go see if any catch your eye, just choose without needing to report back. The system was shocked to the point of wide eyes, stammering like a chicken with something stuck in its throat. Here the emperor directly chooses male consorts for the princess. I laughed softly, lightly lifting my sleeve to leisurely answer. I already said, Great Jin's princess, as long as she doesn't rebel. The system was silent for a long while, finally exclaiming in admiration. Truly eye-opening. It looked at me for a while, then gently said, You've escaped your fate of death, so it's time for me to leave. You must definitely live well. I nodded slightly, feeling something in my head just disappear, like a bell quietly ending its roll. I looked up. Today's sky was crystal blue without a wisp of cloud. Truly beautiful weather. Looking down before me was a line of handsome men standing straight. Each one radiated extraordinary bearing and demeanor. I burst out laughing. Haha, my mood has improved too. Thank you everyone for listening to Panda Tale Channel's story. Wishing you all a wonderful day. Remember to like and subscribe to receive notifications when the channel releases new videos.